it like a sauna, penetrating through your body armor. Rhythmically we massage ya.
Volkswagen.
They called it madness. Building the car of your dreams yourself. Madness. Putting the engine in the back. Madness. Launching a turbocharged super sports car in the midst of a worldwide oil crisis. Madness. Taking a sports car into the desert and taking the insights gained there back onto the streets. Madness. Building the first hybrid car on Earth. And when its time had come, the fastest one on Earth. Once more, they called it madness. Let them call it madness. We call it courage. The courage to build a sports car with 4 business class seats. The courage to upgrade not only the driving, but also the driver. The courage to transfer an unmistakable design DNA and create a luxury saloon that was born on the racetrack and is at home on the roads. The new Panamera. Courage changes everything.
Gigabit Internet issa f'Malta. Gawdi mill-Giga Power biss mal-Melita Flexi.
And welcome to the second round of the Porsche GT3 Cup from Sim Racing Malta. I'd like to say hello to everybody: Justin, me, Adrian, George, Terence, and Gilmore. As we said, today is the second round of the Porsche Cup. This will be in Monza very soon, like in 5 to 10 minutes. We'll be going live also with the briefing. With us, we have also Joshua, who will be commentating today also. Hello, Joshua.
Hello. Hello indeed. And very, very good to see the cars back out on track again here at Monza. I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, today is the second round. Now, also, we need to remind people and our competitors that we'll be on the 28th of February. We'll have also the last day of the qualification rounds for our Husingveld 24-hour endurance race. Today with us, as you can see, we have like 16 cars, and hopefully we'll see another exciting race like we saw in round one. Yeah, Joshua.
Yes, thank you very much. So that was the introduction. There you see the entry list of 16 cars. Well, actually, I see 15 there, so there's one that isn't on the list. And of course, we got 15 cars last time out, so it's good to see that we've got a larger entry list than before. For ACR Zach Speed, of course, we have the normal competitors of Risto Capit and Richard Schaefer. They were both very quick last time out at Brands Hatch when we went there in January. Kevin Siggy is taking the Waters Automotive liveried car around this Monza circuit today. Sandro Zara for Exol Go Racing, and then another Waters Automotive car of Gergo Baldi. Clinton Fowl.
Yeah, sure. Also for this round, another driver joined us, which is Keith Camilleri.
Yes.
Another driver from this round onwards will be joining this championship.
Of course, it was originally that 20 drivers qualified for this championship. There was a qualifying server up where the drivers could thrash these cars around the buffer circuit, and then the quickest 20 were selected to race in this series. Sadly, we only got 15 entries for round one. I expect we'll get more as the series progresses. Of course, it's for a very good prize as well. The winner, of course, gets a Porsche on-track experience at the Istanbul circuit in Turkey, and definitely a lot of bragging right as well, because this is a very, very competitive championship. When you've got names like, for example, Risto Capit, he's a GPVWC Super League race winner, of course, and then you also get the real life drivers as well of Bernard Vella. As we've said, Keith Camilleri, of course, he's done Italian Formula 4 and the likes. And you have many other drivers here as well who have also done more. I believe Brandon Tabone races in reality, and as do a couple of these other drivers. We've got drivers who have won one-off races that Sim Racing Malta have done, the casual races. For example, Bernard Vella, who of course won the GT3 race we held at this very track. We've got drivers like Justin Barucki, who got so close to winning the Lotus 98T casual race the other day, and actually crossed the line first in race one, but only to be demoted by a penalty. And we've got many other drivers who are very, very quick as well. We don't actually have 16 drivers in the session at the moment, but I hope we get more in as the session goes on. We actually only have 12, but 16 cars because of the extra race stewards and the likes. Now, one thing I'm sort of confused by is the fact that we appear to already be in qualifying, and we haven't had the driver briefing yet. Now, I think what's actually happening is that we haven't yet started official practice. Can you confirm
Yes.
that?
Sure. No, we'll still going to the briefing now. Then obviously at 8 o'clock we have our practice session, a 30-minute practice session. Following that, we'll have the 15-minute qualifying session, and then we have the 1-hour race following the qualifying. We're waiting for some drivers actually to join the briefing channel, like in 1 minute, and we'll go on briefing.
We will be starting the briefing now. I'd like you to please. I'm going to make who's in the briefing at the moment. We have Bernard Vella. We have Brendan Tabone, Dario Gregobaldi, Haniar Sapti, Omar, Joshua Jones. Keith Camilleri, Kevin Stiggy, Ruben, Richard Schaffer, Risto Capet, Rosara. That's it. So everybody had joined the briefing session. Welcome everybody to this second race for the Porsche GT3 challenge. Obviously, we will expect a clean and fair race, as sports has to be. We need to respect, as we say, the first corner. We will not do any restart. Only restarts will be done if something happens to the server or something without control, beyond our control. So we will be we have live viewers today. It will be me, George, and even I have our assistant today, Terence. We will cover the cars. So we will be looking for no bumping. So we'll be monitoring the race. Bumping or accidents penalties due to race accidents will be carried out 10 to 20 seconds penalty, and even of the drive-through. We have to bring it. That drive-through have to be taken in three laps after it's been issued. Please note that we will send you a message on Discord. Talk to you on Discord. Please, if you not hear us or you're not in the channel that we cannot reach you, it's not our problem. You have to be on the channel there, and so a penalty after the race will be issued according to not taking the penalty out, to not taking the drive-through. So regarding to shortcuts, it's Assetto rules. So if the game gives the penalties or not, if it's the game decision. So if there is places that the Assetto will not issue a penalties for those shortcuts, who will be using them will be No, it's normal. So it's race as normal. So as we say, it's we have a race regarding. We're going to have the first 30 minutes practice, 15 practice. Sorry, 15 practice, 30 minutes qualifying, and then a 1-hour race. Obviously, pits are open, but we obligatory pit stop. It's between the 45th minute and 35th minute, counting down to the end, as the same as last time. So one pit in that time window have to be obligatory done. You can do as much pits as you want. Failing to pit in that time window will incur a DNF from the race. Drive-through have to be done within the third laps issued. Tire blanket can be on. And 3 wheels off track will be penalized, obviously, by the game. Pit lane exit cut will be will be taken in consideration too. So, and please respect overtaking or overlapping by the blue flag. Have a nice race. Enjoy it. Let's go and start some session. Any questions, please? Looks like no questions. So have a nice race. See you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So back we are. We're gonna go like in 9 minutes. We'll be going on with the practice session of 15 minutes, then the qualifying session of 30 minutes, and the 1 hour race following that. I'll pass on the word now to Joshua so that he'll also give us an update, and we'll keep on going, and we'll be with you soon.
Right, so the practice time has started, and we have currently quite a few drivers in the session. That looks.
So actually, the practice session has not started yet. It will start at 9 minutes time. It's exactly at 8 o'clock. So this is just the server right now, so letting the drivers doing their laps.
All right, I was a bit distracted by the way that the server had actually started a practice session, and 7 minutes out isn't unheard of, but never mind. Okay, the practice session has not yet started yet. So I'll take this opportunity to read through the drivers' standings after one round. Of course, last time out we were at the Brands Hatch circuit, and that race was very much won by Hani Al Sabdi, who delivered a full-on hat trick of fastest lap, qualifying pole, and the race victory, and quite convincingly as well. So Al Sabdi certainly the man to beat. Behind him in the championship in second is Risto Capit, followed by Kevin Siggy, Gergo Baldi, Richard Schaefer, Damien Lempart, Justin Barucchi, Bernard Vella, Brandon Tabone, and Dario Andrioni to round out the top 10. Also looking at the entry list, which you see on the screen now, I believe I got up to Gergo Baldi before in the number 13 that you see on the top right. After him, we also have... oh, never mind this. Okay, we changed to the calendar. I think I read out the majority of the grid anyway. Okay, so as you can see, we're at Monza today. It's the 23rd of February, 2018. In exactly a month, we'll be off to Vallelunga, followed by Mugello in May, and then the Nürburgring, the Red Bull Ring, the Silverstone GP, and eventually the final in Intercity Istanbul. So that should be interesting. There you see the studio cam with everyone working behind the scenes. That's one of the reasons this series is so professional, because we do have a very dedicated team of staff working here, including live stewards, and there you see they're just waving. I'm surprised you're not getting distracted actually by that lovely Nissan in front of you. Beautiful looking car, I must say, one of my favorites. But anyway, back to the Porsches. We are just well, we have about 5 minutes until we started the official practice. That will be a 15-minute session, followed by a half-an-hour qualifying session, and then a 1 hour race with a pit window from 45 minutes left to 35 minutes left. So that's 15 minutes into the race to 25 minutes into the race. It'll be pretty close to the start of the race, this pit stop. And as a result, we should get the drivers really pushing at the start, and then really having to conserve their tyres at the end. And therefore, you get the best of both worlds in terms of driving skill. You need to be able to drive quickly and also to conserve your tyres. Of course, cars can pit at other times that aren't those times that I said, 15 minutes into 25 minutes in, but of course it won't count towards your mandatory pit stop. So you do have to make a mandatory pit stop at some point, and that is a real issue for drivers who end up getting damaged on the first lap, and that calls for oh dear, what have I done there? Okay, and that calls for a good well, it calls for a clean start. So as you can see, there's the program. We've already done the race briefing to drivers. We're about to get a short practice session followed by a qualifying session, and then we will be going into the race before interviewing the drivers at the end and closing off the show. And who will be at the top then remains to be seen. Of course, Hani Al Sabdi has to be the driver to beat after what we saw last time out. But we've got a couple of drivers who could challenge. Of course, Capit and Siggy both challenged last time out. Both of those were in second place at different points in the race. And of course, this weekend, of course, we do also have the driver Keith Camilleri, who incidentally is right up the sharp end of the field in this practice session that I'm watching now. Not official practice, just a sort of warm up before the official practice session. So Camilleri could certainly be one driver to look out for.
Sure. Also, as you're mentioning, obviously one of the drivers of RPM Esports would like obviously now to thank GT Omega, because now the team is the GT Omega Racing RPM Esports team that we just made the announcement a week ago that GT Omega is the official partner for RPM Esports.
Absolutely, and it's great to get big names like that in this series, because that just proves how professional it is, and how much of a how much of a big thing it is when you get sponsors like GT Omega and Porsche as well. Porsche is an official sponsor of this series, and of course everyone knows Porsche. It's a worldwide brand, making very, very high quality cars of the likes that we're about to see racing. So this series certainly not one to be sniffed at. And as I said before, one of the most professionally run series as well, with one of the strongest entry lists. As I said, we had a qualifying server set up so that we could find the quickest drivers for this series. There are some of the quickest sim racers in the world here. Risto Capit, as I said, really took the fight at the end of last year to Rudy Van Buren, of course, in the series that they were racing in neutrally. And Van Buren went on to be crowned world's fastest gamer. And now, of course, Al Sabdi has gone even quicker than Capit in the first round. It just shows the quality of drivers.
So we're gonna practice session will be starting in 2 minutes time.
Rightio. So practice session about to start. Of course, the practice session is not one that will affect the grid order or the race starting order or even the race finishing order directly. It's just one last opportunity for the drivers to get the cars set up and get used to them before qualifying. Hopefully all of these drivers have been practicing for quite a long time quite a large amount of time this week, but even so, you can always go quicker and you can always get more consistent, and that is what these drivers will be trying to do. They can't go for a proper race stint, seeing as practice is only 15 minutes long. So really, the practice here will just be just before practicing the hot laps and setting up the car for qualifying. So that's what we'll be looking out for. All the drivers will be doing hot laps, and that is why practice here will be a good indication of who to look out for in qualifying. And we'll see who can put themselves at the top of the order. Of course, this track, the fastest one in terms of average speed that we're going to get on the calendar this year, this is the Autodromo Nazionale Monza in Italy. Of course, very, very high-speed circuit known as the Temple of Speed, only separated, well, with really, really long straights, several really long straights, only separated by chicanes. And, of course, the long parabolica final corner.
And here we go, the practice session is on. So we've started the 15-minute practice session right now.
So 11 corners of this Monza circuit are about to be tackled. I estimate lap times of probably about 1 minute 40, 1 minute 45 to 1 minute 50. I didn't actually look at the lap times they were setting in the practice server that was just up, but I estimate it's probably going to be about that. So we'll see what laps these Porsches are capable of. Of course, an interesting thing is that they're going to be rather unsettled through the corners this weekend. Of course, because well, the drivers want to set the cars up with the minimal aerodynamic aid that they can possibly get, because of course they'll be looking out for the straight line speed capabilities of their cars, and as a result, they can't have all of that aerodynamic grip weighing them down effectively as they're heading down the straight. It just acts as extra surface area, which holds them back, almost like having a parachute dragged out the back of the car. And while these cars' engines are wholly capable of doing so, it's certainly not the quickest way around the circuit. So they want to really rip off quite a lot of that rear wing, not literally, but the angle of the rear wing, and the front splitter, if that's actually modifiable. I don't know if it is, and that certainly increases the straight line speed down the straights. But of course, around the corners, it means that the car has less grip than it normally would do, and as a result, the drivers' braking distances will be increased, which should give us a few good opportunities for overtaking. My first commentary on Sim Racing Water was actually at this circuit, the Autodromo Internazionale Monza, with a GT3 casual race, and that was won by Bernard Vella, who is here this Friday as well, and that was great to see. There was a lot of excitement in that, and a lot of good battling, even with only 11 drivers who took part. But now we have 16 drivers with some Porsche Cup cars. Of course, these cars do race here in reality with the Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup that goes here on the weekend of the Italian Grand Prix. So these cars, of course, no stranger to this track. And Kevin Siggy is giving us our first ride around it. So Kevin Siggy was the first driver to go onto a lap in this weekend. He's just at the top end of the course now, going around the two Lesmo corners. That was Lesmo 2 there. And now you'll see he'll head down a long back straight towards the Ascari chicane. It's a left, right, and left flick just after he heads under the old banking there. That used to be where they raced, that banking on the bridge you see going across. And now he heads through the Ascari chicane. Of course, that didn't used to be there, but they added in that chicane to slow the speed of the cars down, because the next corner here, Parabolica, became very, very dangerous when we approached at high speed. This is where Jochen Rindt died on his way to the 1970 F1 World Championship, and there were several other casualties here as well. But now, of course, the track, big safety improvements, and probably, many would say, good improvements to the racing as well, because, of course, braking zones give a good chance for overtakes, for outbraking maneuvers, and the first lap comes in from Kevin Siggy. It's a 150.9, which immediately gets bettered by Bernard Vella's 150.8. But then again, this is only a first look at how these drivers are going to go around this circuit, and of course, it doesn't affect the actual order that they'll line up in qualifying. So whatever order they finish in, that is going to be scrapped for the start of the qualifying session, and they're going to have to do it all over again. Of course, with double the time as well. This is 15 minutes. Qualifying will be a 30-minute session, and that is going to be give us a real indication of where the drivers are going to be, because that is going to show us where they're going to line up on the grid. Meanwhile, Brandon Tabone has just set a very fast first sector. Well, it's difficult to tell if it's very fast, but it's the fastest in the session so far of the few drivers who have done it. and Garo Sarafian goes to the top of the order now with a 150.237. So Brandon Tabone still in the second sector of the circuit. The first sector appears to take about 39 seconds on average. That was a 38.7 from Brandon Tabone. How quick is the second sector time going to be from him? It's 37 seconds, and that doesn't look as quick as some of the other guys. In fact, Garo Sarafian did it in 36.2, so that's a whole 8/10 quicker. And I think Tabone might well have made a mistake in this sector, because he's dropped off the pace of it as Siggy goes to the top again. So Siggy with a 150.016 and a fastest Sector 3 time of this session so far, which does just get bettered there by Bernard Vella's Sector 3 time, as Vella goes to third position. And Richard Schaefer puts his car second. What's Tabone's lap going to be? He was quickest in the first sector, but he doesn't move up and doesn't even better his lap there. He was less than a tenth off, but still off his best lap. But he's going to have another go. We've seen that he's the quickest driver on track in the first sector so far, and Tabone is one driver I'm expecting more from as the Friday progresses. What about Justin Baruki? He's in the second sector. No, he's on an out lap. Omar Barbara puts his car 8th. It appears that we've had pretty much all of our drivers on track at the moment. I'd say it looks like the top 12 has set representative lap times so far. Possibly, yeah, it looks like the top 12 has set representative lap times. Capit was on a lap, which looked very quick actually. He was fastest of the session in Sector 2, but he's gone back into the pits. So we haven't seen Risto Capit complete a representative lap yet. I'm expecting that's going to come later on. As Hani Al Sabdi now puts his car at the top of the order with a 149.285 and a fastest Sector 3 in the session. Now, the track temperature today is 20 degrees C. The air temperature is 17 degrees C. It's all a normal summery temperature here in Monza, despite it being winter. The track grip is registering as 100%. I don't know. Well, that seems pretty grippy to me. And the wind speed is about 21 kilometers per hour. Little breeze. But the conditions not looking particularly difficult today. It's all going to be about what the drivers can do in terms of their flat-out race abilities. Keith Camilleri's on his first flying lap here, was his first proper flying lap here, and he's going well up on his lap here. So let's watch what Camilleri can do with this. It's been a quick first and second sector, and this might well put him right at the top. Oh, it only puts him to 5th actually, but it looked like it was going to be quicker than that. Never mind, Camilleri goes to 5th for now. Still a good first time, within a second of Hani Al Sabdi at the top of the order. Still no one within half a second of Al Sabdi though, which just shows how quick Al Sabdi is. Although again, these laps maybe not necessarily entirely representative. We have to see what the drivers do when they have the pressure of a qualifying session put onto them. What can Kevin Siggy do? He's fastest in the he's gone faster than his best in the first sector at the moment. Of course, he is second in the session at this point in time, and wants to get himself at least within half a second of Al Sabdi, preferably ahead of him for him. He's just heading under the old banking and into one of the notorious Monza chicanes. There are 3 proper chicanes on this circuit. This is the Ascari chicane. The others being the first chicane, which is the Variante del Roggia, I believe. And then the second chicane as well. The second of the artificial chicanes, which just heads up towards the 2 Lesmores. And that lap from Kevin Siggy is going to be, as he exits the final corner, it's a 149.7, which does put him within half a second of Al Sabdi and second. Now, one thing I was really impressed with there was that Dario Andreoni put himself to second just before Siggy went to second. And Andrioni, of course, I believe only finished 12th last time out at Brands Hatch. So if he's quick here and can get himself that high up the order in in qualifying possibly, or in the race, then he's going to be in a good position in the championship. He's going to move up several positions after this round, of course, depending on what sort of a race his main rivals have. But it's looking good from that particular pace. So we have just under 4 minutes left in this practice session before we're going to head off to a 30-minute qualifying session here at the Autodromo Internazionale Monza. And so far, topping this session is Hani Al Sabdi, followed by Siggy, Andrioni, Vella, and Schaefer. So that's the order so far, but still plenty of time to go. And again, this doesn't make a difference to the qualifying order or the starting grid. Risto Capit now puts in his first flying lap, and it gives him second. So Capit looking quick again, and the top three are now Al Sabdi, Capit, Siggy. That's the podium from last time out. So the podium from Brands Hatch is now in the order that they finished in, and well, that's the order up the front of the field. So for our championship contenders, it's looking very much like it did last time out. Still time for things to change, of course, but Al Sabdi will be rubbing his hands with glee, noticing that his main title contenders are behind him for now. Of course, also close to them in terms of points, since we've only had one round of one race, is Gergo Baldi, Richard Schaefer, Damien Lampard. In fact, they're all pretty close on points. And technically, anyone could either take the lead of the championship here or tie on points for the lead of the championship. Anyone at all. So there's still plenty of opportunity for things to change here. But realistically, I'd say it's the top three here, possibly the top four, who are properly going for it at the moment. Although you wait until you see the pace of everyone, which we'll see in qualifying. Not really many quick laps coming in at the moment. I'm wondering whether the track's slightly, well, whether the drivers have put down quite a few marbles on the track or something like that. I don't really know how well Assetto Corsa simulates that, with me being from a R-Factor 2 background, but there are a number of reasons why there wouldn't be quick lap times coming in. It might just be purely coincidence. But of course, we're coming towards the end of this practice session, so it doesn't really matter that much anyway. And then of course we're going to head into the qualifying session, where we're really going to see the drivers going at it. At the moment, we have four guys within a half second of each other up the front of the field. As Keith Camilleri clouts the barrier on his lap. Of course, that doesn't really matter, because of course you can just go back to the pits and try again. Someone else had a spin there. Was that? I think it might have been Justin Barucchi. Yes, it was. So Justin Barucchi also went off at the second Les. Those drivers won't be going back out again in this session. Only three drivers on track now, actually. Siggy is one, Schaefer is another, and the third is Omar Barbara. Oh no, we've got two more in the form of Ruben Benici and Sandro Zara as well. And Zara is going a long way up on the personal best lap that they've set so far. In fact, they're almost a second up on it, which would put them... Actually, they're not going to get time, because the session time has ticked to 0 now, and we are going to head into the 30-minute qualifying session, which starts now. So the timer for the 30-minute qualifying session, of course, we don't have to wait for all the drivers to get back to the pits before we start it, and that's why it started 10 seconds ago. So this is the time where we're really going to see the drivers going at it, and the first driver on track now is Richard Schaefer. So Schaefer is going to be the first driver. In fact, both ACR cars are out very, very quickly indeed here. Schaefer followed by Capit. They are the first two cars on track, and these two are ready for action. They want to get in the highest number of laps of anyone, I shouldn't wonder, just to make sure they put themselves as far up the order as they possibly can. And they might be using a slipstream technique as well, where possibly either Capit or Schaefer will drop back slightly and then use the other driver's slipstream on their main lap to boost themselves to a better lap. Of course, that works especially well at Monza, being a very highly, very fast circuit. So a lot of slipstream happens, as Capit and Schaefer have just swapped places now. So it's now Capit who is the car ahead and is possibly going to start their hot lap first. And behind them, the rest of the field will need to drop back slightly so that they don't get caught up behind these cars when they go for the first hot lap here. You see them warming up the tyres as they head down the back straight. This looks like the formation lap of a race. Of course, that's just to get heat in the tyres and make sure that the tyres are at optimum grip when they start their lap. Here's the final corner. Now they need to start putting the pedal down so they get a good run onto this start-finish straight, and it's going to be Risto Capit who is going to start his hot lap first. So let's see what he does as we are already 2 minutes into the session. Capit is the first driver onto a hot lap, but is he doing a slipstream tactic with Richard Schaefer, and is it really Schaefer who we should be looking out for? Many drivers on track now. Capit, Schaefer, Vella, Barucchi, Siggy, Baldi, Serafian, Barbara, Camilleri, Benici, Tabone. They're all on track. In the pit still are El Sabdi and Falzen, as Zara and Andreoni are also on circuit now. Capit and Schaefer put in the first sector times, and actually all of the first three cars juggled the fastest first sector time, because Capit went through and took it, then Schaefer went through and took it, and now Bernard Vella's gone through and taken the fastest first sector time. So it looks as if it's Richard Schaefer or Bernard Vella rather, who is looking quickest so far, as Schaefer makes an error. In fact, Schaefer's slowing, so I wonder if Schaefer's bailing out of this lap, and Vella would have got a face full of his slipstream there. So I'm wondering whether, I'm wondering for a start whether Vella got out of the way specifically so that Schaefer got out of the way specifically so that Vella didn't get the slipstream, but also he did sort of get a little bit of his slipstream, so he would have possibly been better running wide in the middle of a corner. Then again, that's always difficult to do. Now, Risto Capit sets a fastest sector 2 of anyone so far, and he is exiting the final corner now. Let's see what his best lap is as he crosses the line. It's a 1:49.4. That appears quick. Vella goes second so far, and Barucchi now demotes him to third. So Barucchi is second. And now Kevin Siggy goes third. So Siggy goes third with the fastest third sector time. Indeed, Schaefer really did back out of that lap. He was 13 seconds down at the end, so he backed out of that. I was wondering whether the ACR team was going for a slipstream tactic, but obviously that was not the case at that specific point in the session. I'm just watching Dario Andreoni coming through the final corner now. He's going to be the next driver through to set his first flying lap, and I was quite impressed by Andreoni's practice pace. So let's see what he can do in qualifying. He goes 6th for now, so really not bad for someone who was 12th last time out. Andreoni goes 6th. Sandro Zara is in the third sector as well. Sandro is also going to put in his first lap of the session here. He's in the final sector now, around the final corner, and this appears to be a fairly good lap. Well, it's an opener, definitely a banker to get you ahead of the people who might have issues, and it goes 10th for now. So 10th ahead of Richard Schaefer, who backed out of his lap, and now we need to wait for the other drivers to start setting representative lap times. We still haven't seen any from Schaefer, Baldi, Benici, Al Sabdi, or Falza. Bernard Vella now crosses the line to go fastest in the third sector, and he moves up to 4th position before immediately getting knocked out of that position by Richard Schaefer, who goes 3rd. Schaefer, of course, was 3rd initially, now and then Vella took it. Schaefer has taken it straight back again. Actually, Schaefer was never 3rd, was he? He'd backed out of it. I was thinking in practice. So Schaefer sets his first representative lap time and goes 3rd there. Still 2 places behind his teammate Risto Caput, though. What about Gergo Baldi? He's on his first flying lap here. Baldi on his first representative lap time is in the final sector, and Baldi, of course, is 4th in the championship, so he's one to look out for. And if he can get a good result this weekend, possibly a podium, he could be right in the championship race as we head towards round 3 at Vallelunga. Of course, the next round being a month after this one. Now let's see what Baldi's lap is as he crosses the line. It goes 4th, so Baldi puts in a good lap. 4th is where he finished last time out, and he's 4th again so far today. Baldi 4th position, and we have a very fast first sector time from Kevin Siggy. He's in the 3rd sector now, and this looks to be a quick lap from Siggy. I wonder if he's going to go faster than Risto Caput with this one. This is certainly a good lap so far, and he only has one more corner to negotiate. This is the notorious Parabolica. Out of Parabolica, he goes, gets a good slingshot. He's going to cross the line now. Does it go top? No, it doesn't. It was an improvement. It was a 149.503, and that puts him 0.034 behind Caput at the top. But it doesn't go fastest just yet. It was a fast sector 1, but it looked like it dropped off slightly in sectors 2 and 3, which weren't even his personal best. So I wonder whether he just dropped off slightly, got out of the rhythm in sectors 2 and 3, and that cost him provisional pole there, although we still have over 2/3 of the session remaining here. Omar Barbara is 10th at the moment, but he is on a quicker lap than his best so far. About 4/10 up, actually, it's registering in the first sector. He's coming through the second. What's happened there? Oh, he's been demoted, so someone else has gone quicker. That's Al Sabdi, who's gone to 5th. So our championship leader 5th at the moment, but I'm sure we're going to see more from Al Sabdi as the session continues. Very, very quick driver is Hani Al Sabdi, one of the quickest I've ever known. And now out of the final corner comes Barbara after this lap. Where is this going to put him? It was a dodgy second sector, but his first sector was good. What is it when he crosses the line? It is. Is it quicker? It is an improvement, but he doesn't move up the position, so still 11th for Omar Barbara. Fastest first sector time just came in from Justin Brookie, so Brookie's flying here, and Brookie was very quick over the break between the two races in a casual race when we raced 1986 F1 Lotuses. You can find the footage of that still on this Sim Racing Water Championship. He actually just hopped over the inside curb there, so I'm wondering whether this lap is going to be allowed because he cut the final corner the penultimate corner of the track, and this doesn't look as if it's going to be a quicker lap anyway, as Camilleri puts himself 8th for now. Out to the final corner comes Justin Barucki. Can he get a good enough slipstream from that ACR car ahead of him to go quicker than his best? He doesn't, so that wasn't quicker anyway. And of course, I think he may have cut a corner, so I'm not sure whether that would have been allowed anyway. Al Sabdi's on a quick one. What's this? He goes to third. So Al Sabdi goes to third with a 149.5. 0.132 off Risto Capit at the top of the order. It's anyone's game there, as the top 5 drivers are separated by less than 0.4 of a second. Now, looking through the order, I think we should wait to see what Al Sabdi can do on this lap as well, because Al Sabdi has had a decent couple of first corners, and of course Al Sabdi's really got the bit between his teeth now, as we're now over 10 minutes into the session. We've got 19 minutes remaining now, and still plenty of time for things to change. Al Sabdi is improving on his lap. That's a good first sector. If he can keep that rate of gaining in all 3 sectors, then he will have pole here, provisional pole. So let's watch what Al Sabdi can do in the second and third sectors. It was a 38.6 in the first sector, which is about, well, it's less than a tenth slower than our best so far, I'm sure, which is still held, I believe, by Justin Barucki. And now, well, the second sector time was off a bit from Al Sabdi, but he's still going up on his previous best. So it's still worth watching as we head through the final corner, or towards the final corner now. Braking hard. Of course, these cars in reality would have such big braking forces there that it would be really rather physically hard to drive them. Al Sabdi now crossing the finishing line. It's a quick one. It's first. It's a 149.295. Al Sabdi goes to the top of the order by 0.127 from Risto Capit. Still anyone's game, but that was a session best third sector from Hani Al Sabdi, 34.8 in the third sector, and a very quick one indeed, as Al Sabdi puts himself at the top of the order. The championship leader is at the top so far. Richard Schaefer, however, has just set a fastest first sector of the session so far. So Schaefer is reacting to being demoted to 4th here, and he's not liking it. So Schaefer trying to go up in his time. He's actually lost quite a bit of time in the second sector so far. His delta time is registering him as being 0.3 seconds, 0.4 seconds now behind his best. So I'm wondering whether he lost it somewhere in the second sector, possibly going into the second chicane. He might have lost some time. Yeah, that second sector, I'm afraid, is a long way off where it should be. So he's made an error there, which has cost him. And as a result, this lap's not going to be any quicker from Richard Schaefer, who I know can go quicker from what I just saw there. What about Keith Camilleri? He's set it. Oh, he's abandoned that lap. He's weaving from side to side, so he's just gearing up for another lap. Another lap here. Of course, we've still got plenty of time in the session, so no rush. Then again, you can't say that throughout the entire session, because why put off what you can do later to now, or what you can do now to later, if that makes sense. I've also just found out that the second chicane is the Valiente del Roggia, not the first one. So that's a I think a mistake I made earlier. I think I called Valiente del Roggia. No, never mind. Capit fastest in the second sector so far. So let's watch Risto Capit. This is a full-on attack at pole position. He's heading through the final corner now. And let's see what this lap is from Capit, because this could be a real challenge. It's quicker, but it's not pole. It's quicker than his best. It's a 149.360. But Al Sabdi's is a 149.295. So the gap is 0.065 of a second. That's just over well, just under 700ths of a second. And Capet, definitely a driver to look out for. And it looks like one that can go quicker than what he's already done. So that's something to look out for. His first and third sectors weren't even his personal best. So what he can do for the remainder of this session is soon to be seen. We're just over halfway through the session now, so now we're getting into the really serious part of the race weekend, where every mistake you make punishes you. And of course, a mistake here means fewer laps. And if your opponent gets one lap more than you and goes quicker on that lap, then I'm afraid it's your own fault. Brandon Tabone just coming across the line now. He does not go quicker than his lap. He's being followed across the line by Keith Camilleri, who goes 6th. So Camilleri climbs up the order to 6th position with that lap. Camilleri, who missed round 1, so if he's still going for that Porsche on-track experience, he needs to make up some serious points for the remaining 7 rounds of his championship. An 8-round championship is a relatively short one, so there's really not much room for mistake. And this championship really does reward consistency. As Al-Sabdi, interestingly, sets the fastest Sector 3 time of his of the session again, but on a slower lap. Dario Andreoni, interestingly, has set a quick first sector and is going up on his best. So Andreoni, who, as I keep saying, has been rather impressive on pace, is improving his lap so far. He's just rounding the final sector now. This is the Ascari chicane, now down the back straight and towards the final corner. The Curva Parabolica, which technically counts as turn 9. No, I'm reading the wrong thing. So let's see what this lap is from Andreoni. I reckon, judging by the delta, he will climb to 8th with this lap. He's 10th at the moment. I reckon this is a good lap, and it is indeed. It's 8th from Dario Andreoni, as I predicted. Only, well, really not that far at all. Only 0.027 of a second off Keith Camilleri in 7th. So good performance from Dario Andreoni to get very close to the blisteringly quick Keith Camilleri, who of course won the first Sim Racing Malta casual race, the BTCC race at Laguna Seca. And Capet is on a charge again. So Capet fastest in the second sector of anyone so far. His first sector wasn't quicker, but it's certainly enough to hang on to this lap. So let's see what he can do in the third sector. It's all going to come down to one more corner here as to whether Capet takes provisional pole or not. He's 0.137 off his rival Al-Sabdi so far. And let's see if he can go quicker with this lap. I think he'll be able to, but I don't think it'll be enough. He's going to cross the line shortly. Well, it was an improvement. It was a 149.286 so far, but and let's see if was a 149.223. So that I think he'll be able to, but Al-Sabdi is on pole so far, provisional pole, shortly by 0.063 of a second, and still, well, the top 4 drivers separated by less than half a second, but the top 11 separated by less than a second. Kevin Siggy is about to go into a lap. He's backed out of his last one, but really we should be watching Keith Camilleri here, who is registered as being 3/10 up on his best in, well, as he heads towards the final corner, 4/10 up. Now this could be a real challenge for a good position. Will it give him 5th? It might well give him 5th. He's 8th. He's 8th now. And Camilleri takes a tight line. Yeah, it's 5th. So 5th for Keith Camilleri, as I predicted. And that puts him between Kevin Siggy and Bernard Vella. So Siggy is 4th, Camilleri is 5th. Vela is 6th with 10 minutes remaining. We have 10 minutes left. 2/3 of this qualifying session are up already. We are getting very close to the race now. This is when the real sprints to the flag, or to set a quicker lap, happen. To look for the right words. Hello to everyone in the Facebook and YouTube streams. We are on we're on Facebook, Sim Racing Malta. We are on YouTube as well, also Sim Racing Malta, and also for simnews.tv. A couple of people joining that, including Brendan Lee. Now that's a name I very much recognise. And Darian Quinn. Good to see Darian Quinn. I know I know Darian as well. So a couple of names I recognise here. Risto Caput posted a comment a while ago. He's racing, of course. Chris Shepherd, regular viewer. Seeing him in a couple of streams so far. Whoever you are here, Jamal Gandor, Kevin Samut, racers themselves, or anyone else. It's good to see you in the in watching the stream today, and hopefully we will provide for you a good broadcast and a good race for you to see this Friday evening. And what a way to end your Friday evening! I mean, there was a time a while ago when I couldn't find any racing at all on a Friday evening, and I always found the weekdays some of the most boring of the year. But thank goodness for sim racing, and I always found to bring good racing to us on any day of the week. And of course, this Sim Racing Malta Championship runs on select Friday evenings throughout the year. We've selected 8 Friday evenings for the Sim Racing Malta Porsche Championship, and then of course the Sim Racing Malta casual races take place on any day of the week that they're scheduled on. The last one was on a Thursday, and it's good to see these cars after getting back from school sometimes. Bernard Vella improves his fastest lap with a faster sector 3 of anyone, but his sectors 1 and 2 were down. So Vella is still 6th at the moment. I believe that's where he was before, although he edges slightly closer to Keith Camilleri, trying to get his 5th position back. And the order, with just 7 minutes of the session remaining, is still Al Sabdi, Capit, Schaefer, Siggy, Camilleri, Vella, Barucchi, Baldi, Andrioni, Serafian, Tabone, Barbara, Falzen, Bonici, and Zara. So those are our 15 drivers, not 16 as we reported earlier on, but 15 drivers in their qualifying order, if it were to line up as it does now. So, just watching a couple of drivers on their laps. I don't think we've got many drivers really going any quicker than their laps. Bernard Vella's been setting a very similar lap to his previous one, actually. So Vella might go quicker with this. It'll certainly be close. Other drivers who are close to their previous laps are Schaefer, Siggy. Any of these drivers could pull something out of the bag in the final sector, but it's very difficult to tell who to watch at this stage in qualifying. I reckon that quite a few drivers will be just setting up for one final run, one final attempt at the circuit, and then they will go out and possibly set a quicker lap. Al Sabdi's in the pits at the moment, as is Justin Barucchi, and Al Sabdi might well think that he's done enough to get pole in this session, but Capit, of course, is only 0.063 behind him in terms of fastest lap. So Capit could well approach him and make his lap time closer and closer. In fact, as I say that, he goes fastest of anyone in the first sector. So Al Sabdi, well, that's very quick, about 0.2 of a second faster than anyone else in the first sector. Al Sabdi is on a charge at pole, and Al Sabdi well, Capit, I mean. Al Sabdi has it at the moment, but oh, there's a spinner there, and that might well have gotten in the way of Capit's progress. Capit still appears to be roughly on the.
It was Ruben Bonici actually spinning, you know.
Okay, Ruben Bonici, who is currently running 14th, is the driver who we just saw spin. And unfortunately, looking at the delta time, Capit is slowing. In fact, he stopped. So Capit gives up on that lap. Possibly feels like he was held up by that spin, or maybe he made another mistake, which made him think that he wasn't going to go any quicker with this lap. But Capit has escaped back to the pits, and now he's going immediately out again. So Capit knows he doesn't have much more chance at going any quicker, and Al Sabdi as well. Al Sabdi is also out onto the track now, and Al Sabdi going for one final launch around the circuit. So we have the top 4 drivers on track at the moment in a qualifying shootout towards the end of this session. Now the top driver in the pits at the moment is Keith Camilleri, who is 5th in the session. And I don't know whether he's going to have time to go out again. Of course, the fastest laps are in the 149s. So ideally, you'd want to exit the pit lane with your lap, or with the time left at about 1:55 or more left in the session. So still a little bit of time until that happens, but we'll see. Interestingly, I can't switch the camera to Camilleri, so I wonder whether that means he's left the server for some reason, but hopefully he can make it to us in time for the actual race. Richard Schaefer is going for it. He set a personal best in the second sector here, but it doesn't look like his lap is going to be up unless he does the final corner brilliantly. No, it looks like this is going to be down from Richard Schaefer here. Not a quicker lap than his best. In fact, he slowed and stopped on the exit of the Parabolica. He's given up on that lap, knows that it's not going to go any quicker, and wants to set up the car for one last run, which would be his final run. And that will be his last chance at this session. What about Kevin Siggy? He's not gone any faster than his best in the first or second sector, but his delta time is registering that he's slightly up on his lap. So whether Siggy can go faster or not all depends again on this final corner. Siggy is 4th at the moment. This doesn't look like a blistering lap, but it's certainly quicker than I could ever do. Exits the final corner. What's it going to be? Is it any quicker than his best here as he crosses the line? It is, but it's not up a position. It's a 1:49.482, and Schaefer's lap ahead of him is a 1:49.457. So no improvement there. And Schaefer himself is just going out for one last run. We are now we've now only got about 1:40 left in this session, which means that no drivers who are currently in the pit, and that is Camilleri, Serafian, and Bonici, and Barbara now, will be able to go out for another lap. Their positions can only go down or stay the same. They are not going to improve. Meanwhile, Camilleri is back in the server. That's good to see. And it's all about what the top guys can do. Al Sabdi has set a first sector time which looks pretty similar to his previous one, so he can go up or down here. Al Sabdi is not well. Yeah, the delta time has just ticked up, so Al Sabdi is on a quicker lap here. This is his charge at increasing his margin for pole here. Capit's only going to get one more chance at taking this as Schaefer crosses the line and does not go any faster. Oh, that's an out lap. So Schaefer now starting his best lap. And Al Sabdi is quicker in the second sector than his personal best. That's a new personal best for Al Sabdi in the second sector. And this is going to be a quick lap, providing he doesn't lose it at the final corner for Hani Al Sabdi. Here we go around the final corner now to see what the lap's going to be. This could potentially be the pole lap of the session. Al Sabdi heads out of the final corner, keeps it tight to the inside. And now he's going to cross the line. Oh, it's quick. It's a 149.058. That's 0.228 to anyone else. And that's the end of the session. That is the end of qualifying. Everyone finished, and Al Sabdi has pole. So Al Sabdi on pole position ahead of Risto Capit, Richard Schaefer, and then it's Kevin Siggy, Keith Camilleri, Vela, Baruki, Baldi, Andrioni, Serafian, Tabone, Barbara Falzen, Benici, and Zara. And that is the order at the end of qualifying.
That's great. I'm gonna go for some adverts now, and we'll come back for the race.
Black beats came to make it hot. We beat the pocket stop. Bubbling up just like lava, heated like a sauna. Penetrating through your body armor. Rhythmically we massage ya.
And here we're back now. We're just like 30 seconds away from the start of the race.
Good timing. I was wondering whether we were going to make it back. Oh, it's about 20 seconds until the race starts. Still, that's rather tight on time. Never mind. We're about to get underway with Hani Al Sabdi at the front of the order. He's surrounded by a lot of other quick guys. Siggy, Capit, Siggy, and Schaefer are all there. Watch for the lights when they go out. We're off here at Monza, and away we go at the front of the order, and Al Sabdi leads. No, Capit's got a better start. Capit might well lead it here, down into turn one. He's taking Al Sabdi on the inside. Can he outbrake him? He does. Capit leads into turn one, and Al Sabdi is having to settle for second. Is everyone through safely here? It looks as if I'd say they are. Yeah, looks like everyone is through safely here. And it's Risto Capit leading. So Capit leads this race from Al Sabdi, from Schaefer, and then Siggy. But Siggy is going for third. Watch him as he goes to the outside of Schaefer, down towards the Variante del Roggia. And look at Andreoni. Andreoni's made up a lot of... Oh, contact! Never mind. Serafian hits. Baruki's off. Vela is off. Camilleri is off. There's a couple of drivers off at the Variante Dal Roggia there. That's our first little incident of the race today, but I believe that everyone got going again in relative one piece. Although Camilleri's moving slowly, that's bad news for Keith Camilleri, who started 5th on the grid. He might be out of the race here. Bad news indeed. And now, as we head through the into the final sector, we're about to get the order update as we cross the start-finish line, so I can give you the full order. It was a crash for 5th, 6th and 7th, as Camilleri, Vela and Baruki have all dropped behind the pack now, so they happen in that general area, which is quite close to the front of the order.
So we have Dario Andreoni, who's under investigation right now because of a possible hit he did in this race track.
It looked to me as if Dario Serafian got involved, possibly triggered it. Then again, I didn't really see it very well. I only saw it out to the corner of my eye. Now watch out. That's now what's Siggy going to the inside for 3rd. Siggy having a look at Richard Schaefer, but he's too far back now. And the order after lap 1 is Capit, El Sabdi, Schaefer, Siggy, Andreoni, Serafian, Baldi, Falzon, Tabone, Barbara, Zara, Bonici, Baruki, Vela and Camilleri. And Camilleri has made it through, so he's not out of the race, which is good to see. Now let's watch at the front of the order. These guys all very, very close and could change order at any moment here. It's still Capit from Al Sabdi from Schaefer, but watch Al Sabdi as he gets aggressive on the rear end of Risto Capit's car. And as we head down towards the Ascari chicane here, can Al Sabdi have a full-on attack in the slipstream of Risto Capit? He's focused to the outside line as we head out under the old banking. Al Sabdi is going for the lead of the race here on lap 2. He doesn't have the optimum line though. Oh, but Capit goes wide. There's contact for the lead. And Al Sabdi goes through. Oh, I thought that was going to end in tears then. Al Sabdi managed to drag his way past Camilleri. Someone, past Capit. Someone's off in the background. Who was that running wide? I think it was Dario Andreoni. And we still have Schaefer and Capit side by side for 2nd. So Schaefer tried to capitalise on that mistake from Capit, as Capit just outbrakes himself trying to defend from Hani Al Sabdi, but he didn't manage to get him just yet. So Schaefer might well have another attack here as we head down the start-finish line. Still the top 3 drivers separated by less than a second. Schaefer's going to the inside of his teammate Capit. This is an ACR battle, ACR side by side, and it's going to be Richard Schaefer on top. Richard Schaefer gets Risto Capit as we go through turn 2 there, and Schaefer makes up that position. A good textbook overtake from Schaefer, and good that he didn't take off his teammate either. That would be absolutely not looked upon well. Omar Barbara's had an incident. He's been very sideways, and he's been demoted by a couple of guys. Oh, with Ruben Bonici. Bonici is slowing. And I wonder whether Bonici is just giving way, or giving way to a driver he thinks he's taken off. I don't know what's happened there, but there's been some sort of incident further back. And still, they're very close up the front of the order. Now Richard Schaefer can possibly set about chasing Hani Al Sabdi. We have 10 minutes until the pit window opens, and that can really bring a new dynamic to the race, as after that, of course, we get it's all about tyre conservation, but for now it's about attack, and that's what these drivers are doing now, and that is why they are really going for it in these opening stages. That's why there's a lot of incidents now and a lot of overtakes. That and the fact, of course, that they're very close on track, being bunched up by the start. As we head through the final corner of lap 2. Lap 3, rather. So the gap for the lead is 1.5 seconds, almost 1.6 seconds. Al Sabdi has been building it out. really the closest two cars up the front of the order are either Schaefer and Capit for second and third, or Siggy, who immediately follows them. There's a real... Oh, as Tabone and Serafian are side by side heading down towards turn 1. This is for 7th position. Tabone is going to have to go to the outside. Serafian gets it on the inside, so a good move from Serafian. I believe, though, that he actually made a move past Clinton Falson on the last lap as well. So Serafian looks as if he's on the move here, and that's a good move there from Garo Serafian, as I said before, textbook. And he moves himself now up into 7th position, ahead of Brandon Tabone and ahead of Clinton Falson, who he got ahead of before. And still at the back of the order is Keith Camilleri, and it's unusual to see such a quick driver as Camilleri there. It was only because he was involved in an incident on the first lap and then slowed down for some reason that he's now at the very back end of the order. So it's Al-Stabdi leading for Magcape, then it's ACR second and third, followed by Siggy and Andrioni. Andrioni's made a very good start here, and the gaps will certainly be something to keep an eye on. Of course, the gaps do come down slightly in a straight line due to the slipstream of the car ahead, and that can affect what the gaps show you sometimes. It means that they are slightly spread out in the corners, but anything that is less than a second, I'd say, is good slipstreaming opportunity, if I can say that. The gap for the lead is 1.8 seconds. Al-Sabdi from Schaefer, so that's coming out again. And the gap for third and fourth is also coming out to about 0.6 of a second now. So this is the stage in the race where the drivers are just settling into position slightly. Camilleri did get Benici on that lap, so Camilleri is no longer in the last position of this race. And running over the curb slightly goes Risto Capit there, like right up onto the sausage curb. He needs to not do that too many times, because I'm sure the stewards are watching track limits. As you see him running wide on the exit there. I think that running over the curb slightly is not something you will usually get a penalty for. Now, Capit again in the slipstream of Richard Schaefer up ahead of him, the two ACR cars still second and third, and I think that looked like it came down slightly on that straight, as it would do, but it looks like they're closer through the Ascari chicane this time round than they were last lap. And this could be Capit's chance as we head around the Parabolica and then onto the pit straight. Although he does look a bit too far back for now still. Here's the Parabolica. Interestingly, no one clipping the first apex, but you often don't need to here. Well, the first apex is the one I would clip, but you know. So there's a real choice of lines around the Parabolica there. The gap is 0.5 of a second for second and third, and the gap to the lead has come out dramatically on that lap to 2.6 seconds, as Al-Sabdi's quickest lap was almost a second ahead of Schaefer's, his last lap rather. And Al-Sabdi set the quickest lap of the race then as well in the process. Now, it's still, after the first 10 minutes, Al-Sabdi, followed by Schaefer, Capit, Siggy and Andrioni. Those are the top 5. And behind them, Baldi, Serafian, Tabone, Fowles and Baruki. Those are the top 10. And everyone down to the top 15, which is everyone, scores a point. Which means that if anyone finishes this race, they score a point. So no matter how badly a race is going, it's really worth finishing in this race. And we saw that last time out with Ruben Benici, who ended up finishing about 5 or 6 laps down after what looked like a disconnection early in the race, and he still scored a point for 15th position. So it really is worth it in terms of the championship. There may be rounds in the future where an extra driver turns up and we get 16 entries, And the driver who's been finishing 15th this whole time will be thinking, why didn't I finish that one race? Because they can't score points then. And as a result, it's all about being a clean driver, this championship, as well as a consistent one, as well as a quick one. And that is one of the things that this series was designed for, because of course Sim Racing Malta aimed at getting drivers into real race cars in reality. And of course you can't be a crash master, as they're called, if you want to race in reality. So Sim Racing Malta is dedicated to finding drivers who not only race well and quickly, but also race cleanly. Now, the gap for second is remaining very, very constant. It's just dipped below 0.6 of a second, but it's still at pretty much 0.6 of a second. So that one has stayed very, very steady throughout this race so far. It appears to come down in the first sector, I'd say, but then come out again in the third. And the third sector is really where Capit needs to be catching, because that's the sector where he can get himself properly into the slipstream of Bernard Vella. Richard Schaefer, I don't know where I got Vella from, who is the car ahead of him. Although, of course, these are teammates, so I don't know how the team orders are in this team. It might well be that Capit didn't really protest against Schaefer passing him earlier on in this race, because that might have just been team orders. But team orders, of course, I don't see why they would be the case in this series, seeing as I don't believe there is a team's championship, and there's certainly no team's prize. But there is a driver's prize, so it wouldn't make sense for there to be team orders. I don't think that there are. I think these drivers are properly racing for themselves, and the teams are pretty much just here for sponsorship reasons. But still, you don't want to take out someone who is your teammate, even by name. Now the gap's coming down, so Capit is really catching Schaefer here. He's actually taking a slight look at him there, showing himself to his mirrors as we head down into turn 1. I suppose that was just also seeing where the braking zone was, because it's often difficult to spot when you're behind another car. Meanwhile, Baruki has made a move on to Bone for 9th. But the gap for second was 0.3 of a second there, so Capit is chasing Schaefer. And we'll see if he can go for a move as the session continues. We are very close to the opening of the pit window, mate. The pit window opens in about 1 minute's time, and that is when we're going to see these drivers in the pit lane. Although I don't know what sort of strategy these guys are going to go for. I reckon that if you're running in traffic that's holding you up, you want to pit as soon as you can. But if you want to reduce the effects of your long last stint, if you want to conserve those last tyres properly, and you're not convinced that that it's the best option to attempt going to the end on them from that early in the race, then it might be a wise idea to wait until near the end of the pit window, which will be about 10 minutes after the start of said pit window. And that's a brief guide into strategy here. I believe that there is only one set of tyres that these drivers are using, the harder compound of tyres. So tyre strategy is not really a not really something that's going to come into consideration. And the gap for second, incidentally, is just over 0.4 of a second now, so it came out by about 1/10 on that lap, but still plenty of time to go. And the pit window is now open. So the pit window is open, and now the real strategy is going to come into play. And who will be able to benefit from these stages and gain positions, we are about to see. There's a good battle going on for 8th position here as we head down to turn 1. No! Baruki really had to steer out there to avoid hitting the back of Clinton Fowles and loses a position to Bernard Vella in the process. That was very, very close. it looked as if Maruki was going to run right into the back of Clinton Falzon there. That was a little bit hairy, to put it mildly. And I'm glad that there was no incident there. I mean, of course, at least we're in the pit stages here, so if you do pick up damage, now's the time you'd mind it least. But of course, it would still really harm you in terms of the race. So no driver wants to pick up damage here, no driver wants to lose time here. And in this stage, it's all about gaining crucial track position. Losing time can be just as devastating as losing bits of your car. And again, losing bits of your car means that you do lose time. So I suppose there's only one winner there. Now, will anyone pit this first time around? It looks as if... And again, losing bits of your car means that you do lose time. So well, I was going to say El Sabdi will, but he won't. It looks as if he was going to the far right-hand side, but El Sabdi stays out for now. Of course, he's not running in traffic, so it does make sense for him to... it does make sense for him to try to conserve these tyres and run as late into the race as he can. Of course, he can't run any later than 25 minutes in, because that's when the pit stages close. That's when the pit window closes, and as a result, you can't go any further than that. You will get a hefty penalty for missing the pit window. And did anyone pit that time around? Bernard Vella did, Justin Barucki did, Brandon Tabone did. So all of those three who were involved in that battle there pitted, and unfortunately we've lost Clinton Falzon. So Falzon, as Benici also pits, Falzon appears to be out of the race. Whether that was a disconnection or an accident, I don't know. But our first, well, seeing as he's left the server, I reckon it was a disconnection. Benici got very close to the back of Brandon Tabone, as Tabone was exiting the pits. I thought there was going to be contact in the pit lane there. Luckily there wasn't, but it was certainly very close, and that could have been a lot worse. Now, Richard Schaefer still under attack from Risto Capit. The gap on the last lap was just under 0.5 of a second, so these two still in a battle here, a battle for supremacy within the team. Capit qualified ahead, Schaefer's ahead now, and these two still running around on the circuit. No stops up the front yet. It'll be interesting to see who the first stoppers up the front end of the field are. Well, the top three stay out this time around, and the gap for second is 0.4 of a second, so it's come down, and Capit is edging closer in the slipstream. And if Schaefer makes a mistake now or on this lap, Capit is going to be right past him. You see how much he gained as they accordioned up in the braking zone of that corner there of turn one. And that's the accordion effect, as I said. And that makes it very easy to run into people under braking sometimes, which is a shame. Falzon, interestingly, is back in the session now. He's in the pits. So whether he can return to the race or not, I don't know. I hope he can. And now, Tabone has... Well, what's happened there? Oh, is that... Well, Baruki's gaining places. Oh, that's just the order sorting itself out after last lap's pit stops. Okay. So, after 20 minutes of the race now, the order is still Al Sabdi, Schaefer, Capit, Siggy, Andrioni, and then it would be unfair to read out more positions from then on, because some of the drivers in the bottom end of the top 10 have pitted, and that means that the order is not the effective order, and the top 5 are still the drivers who haven't pitted yet. I don't believe the 6th or 7th have pitted either. I think they were in 6th or 7th before these stops as well, but we'll have to see as we're on lap 11 of this race. Quite a short lap this one is. And now, is anyone of significance going to pit this time around? It's all about who pits when, and Baldi is in. So Baldi from 6th pits the car, bang splat in the middle of the the pit window, interestingly. That's something we don't normally see. Normally drivers wait, or normally drivers go in right at the start of the pit window or right at the end, depending on what the strategy is. So it's unusual to see a driver coming in bang splat in the middle, but Baldi obviously going for a different strategy to everyone else, and that's a strategic decision from Baldi, possibly trying to get himself some clean air right when he needs it. Maybe he saw some back markers coming up or something like that. Omar Barbara is also in from 8th position. So a couple of pit stops happening this time around. Sandra Zara from 11th is in, and Falzon again has left the service. So I think that Falzon is out of this race, I'm afraid. Very unfortunate to see a retirement, especially in a race where all finishers do score a point. And really, it's a shame that Falzon will not be finishing this race as things stand, because, of course, he's a quick driver, and we want to see everyone get to the finish. It was a surprisingly clean race at Brands Hatch. Everyone finished the race. Admittedly, Benici was about 5 or 6 laps down, as I said, due to what looked like a disconnection. But apart from that, it was a very clean race, and not many incidents. There was a collision or two, but not many real incidents there. At quite a punishing circuit, as Brands Hatch is renownedly. But that's just a sign of the quality of these drivers. Now, who's pitting this time around? Al Sabdi is. So Al Sabdi, our leader, has been into the pits, and he's exiting the pits now. He is no longer in the lead of the race due to that. Schaefer is now leading from Capit. It's an ACR 1-2, but of course that can soon change. Gary Serafian is in. He was running 6th, effectively 7th, I think. And Keith Camilleri now pits as well. And I believe that is everyone in the pits except for our ACR drivers at the front of the order. So ACR still yet to stop. And Clinton Falzon has actually just messaged me directly and said, unfortunately, that he did have a disconnection, and well, he was having a good race. It says without practice. Now, he was doing very well without practice. That was a good qualifying position. I mean, he would have had a bit of practice just before, but you know, that's still very impressive. And well, a big shame that he's not going to be finishing this race here. Now, looking back at the order, we still have our top 2 guys waiting to pit. They will have to pit this time round because well, this brings up an interesting point. Do they have the same pit box, or can they pit separately? I hope they can pit separately, because otherwise they're going to have to stack up the cars. There's plenty of cars in the pits there. And now into the pits comes Risto, Capit, and Richard Schaefer. Capit's in. Well, Schaefer's in. Is Capit in the same box? Oh, he's just behind him. He's coming out, touching him. This is very, very close as we exit here. And that is very, very close. Now, Al Sabdi's just gone through, so Al Sabdi leads the race again. And pretty much everyone else has pitted here at the end of this race. Pit window. And it is Schaefer who has come out ahead of Capit, as they were before they entered the pit lane, but that was very close there. And I was wondering whether it would be the case, but it is. Schaefer is, well, Al Sabdi is leading, because Andreoni, who would have inherited the lead, had to pit. And then it's Schaefer, Capit, Siggy, and has Baldi got ahead of Andreoni? I believe that Baldi, in fact, I think that Baldi and Serafian have both got ahead of Andreoni. So Andreoni, I think, has dropped a couple of positions, which is a shame. And I don't know why that's happened, but whatever the case, Andreoni has dropped a couple of positions, and now it's Gergo Baldi in 5th position. and I'm sure of that. I don't know just how many positions Andreoni has dropped, but that's the order, or well, that's the top 5 anyway. We'll see when the session order updates when they cross the start finish line and everything resets itself. The pit window has officially come to a close now, so everyone has stopped, and there will be no more pit stops unless for unscheduled reasons, and we hope to not see many of those. It's Al Sabdi leading after the pit stages from 4.499 seconds over Richard Schaefer. That's about what the gap was before as well. And then Risto Capit is following Schaefer, still right on his tail. These two have been running head to tail for the entire race so far. The ACR cars completely inseparable. And Andreoni incidentally dropped to 8th in that sector, or in that stage of the race. So Andreoni, I'm afraid, lost a couple of positions with that. Now, the battle for second is still one to watch, as Capit took a brief look up the inside of Richard Schaefer there. That was close, but doesn't get close enough. He's certainly following him, and he's certainly there to launch an attack if Schaefer makes a mistake. Although I'm wondering if he's being told to hang back by the team, possibly to stop them from coming together or something like that. They need to work together if they want to track down Hani Al-Sabdi, as Schaefer does from slightly wide there. Al-Sabdi's getting away a bit in the distance. Now watch Capit. Capit's going to capitalise on that mistake. Schaefer is going to have to go defensive here. He doesn't. Capit is up the inside as we head through the Parabolica, side by side of the two ACR cars. It's Capit on the inside. It's Schaefer on the outside. And who is going to get this position as we're going to shoot down the final straight of the pit straight now. And this means that they're still going to be side by side as we head down towards turn 1. It's still Capit on the inside. And Capit will have the ideal line for the opening part of this chicane. But if Schaefer can hold on, which is unlikely in this... Oh, Schaefer comes across. I wasn't expecting to see him do that, but he did. And Schaefer just breaks slightly later than Capit, and that's a good bit of defence from Richard Schaefer. And he keeps second from Risto Capit, who's going for it again, still on the tail of the other ACR car as we head through Curva Grande and up towards the Variante da Roggia. You can tell the difference between the two cars because Capit has the blue wing mirrors and Schaefer has the orange wing mirrors. So it's still Schaefer in front for now, you can tell that. But how he kept that is beyond me. That was completely unbelievable. Schaefer makes another slight mistake as we head through the second Lesmo. And Capit is once again in the slipstream. The gap through the start-finish line was registered as 0.012 seconds apart in the favour of Capit. So Capit briefly got ahead of Schaefer. We all saw that happen. But Schaefer was just able to brake slightly later and get that position, and keep that position, rather. And that was a great little scrap between these two cars from ACR. But you see the Waters car of Kevin Siggy approaching in the background. They need to be careful not to drop back towards him, because that could really ruin their race if he gets involved as well. And now the timing screen corrects itself, but they're still within half a second of each other, and they're still in a proper battle as we head down towards turn 1. Will Capit attack this time around? He's taking a look, but Schaefer's still far enough ahead to defend through the tight turns 1 and 2. And Capit not risking anything silly, seeing as it is his teammate in question. The order after half of the race, because we are halfway through already, is Al Sabdi leading from Schaefer, Capit, Tiggy, Baldi, Serafian, Barucchi, Andrioni, Vella, Barbara, and then it's Tabone, Camilleri, Zara, and Benici, with one retirement from Clinton Falzen roughly 15 minutes ago. Time really does fly, I tell you. Now, out onto the back straight go the two ACR cars. Schaefer wider than Capit. He needs to be careful not to tag the grass and lose that momentum that's completely essential in keeping him ahead of Risto Capit, who is his main rival on track about well at the moment. Chris Shepherd saying that Schaefer needs to move over, so obviously Capit looking like the quicker driver here. Of course, I don't really think that there's a team's championship on, so I don't know whether that would just... Ooh, Schaefer touches the grass again. I was actually just watching the Facebook replay there, checking the comments, so I saw that about 10 seconds after I should have done, so apologies for that, but you know, still these ACR drivers battling for the Drivers' Championship. Of course, Capit at the moment in the Drivers' Championship is ahead of Schaefer. Capit is second, Schaefer is fifth. But still, Schaefer doing a good job to hold off Capit here, and he's still putting in some pretty decent pace here. And as we're 18 laps into the race, it's now all about maintaining your tyres, and actually Schaefer will be getting the advantage on that because Capit, of course, will be in his dirty air through the corners, and that gives him slightly less grip, so he'll have to corner slightly harder to get the same result, which means that his tyres will possibly degrade slightly quicker than Richard Schaefer's up ahead. That's the issue with running behind the car ahead of you, but sometimes you just can't help it, and a good driver will always drive around that. And of course, we know all of these drivers to be very good drivers indeed. Down the back straight we go again for the 18th time. Schaefer still ahead of Risto Capit. I don't know how he's still ahead because they got so close a couple of laps ago after Schaefer made a slight error heading out onto the back straight, but it's still the same. The order is still as it was. And they're still behind Hani El Sabdi by 7 seconds now. 7 seconds is the order, or the gap rather, and that's a decent gap from Hani El Sabdi. So El Sabdi really doing well to pull away from the cars behind of Capit and Schaefer, and no one has been able to touch him so far. He's just been in a class of his own. And of course, El Sabdi did pretty much the same thing last time out. He was first in practice, first in qualifying, set fastest lap in the race, and went on to win it by about, I think it was something like 20 seconds. And it looks as if he's going to do a very similar thing today, providing that nothing goes wrong in these final 25 minutes of this race. And at this point, everyone's really settled into their positions on today, track. Providing that nothing goes. It's all about, at this stage, just maintaining the gap to the car behind, or catching the car in front, and keeping your tyres, not making any silly mistakes, and just winding down the laps here until the end of the race. It'd be a good result, a very good result for Hani El Sabdi to get 2 out of 2 wins here. And a good result especially for Richard Schaefer as well, who is 5th in the championship, so 2nd would do him a load of good in his championship hopes. Of course, all it takes is for El Sabdi to have one dodgy round in this really short championship, and the cars behind him in the championship launch onto the top spot really won't take much. So Al Sabdi needs to have his wits about him, and any mistake could change not just the race but the entire championship. And of course, at the moment, that would be Risto Capit who would take the lead away from him. Capit is second in the championship and on course for several more points in this race. 16 more to be precise. You get 20 for a win, 18 for second, 16 for third, and then also down it's 14, 12, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's from first down to 15th. And really, I'd say I'm going to predict that the champion of this series will be in the top 5 every single race. You just can't afford to have a dodgy race. And if you do, that's pretty much championship over unless your opponents have similar problems. The gap for second is being maintained at about half a second, as it was just before the pit stages as well. These two still technically very close on track. These two will be battling on every straight. Zara and Benici are side by side down into turn 1 here. Zara and Benici fighting over 13th position, and this is the battle not to be last, as Zara defends from Benici and kept it as they went down that straight and into turns 1 and 2. Some good defence from Zara as Benici positioned himself on the outside line. Of course, these two are fighting for points as well, despite being right at the back of this order. And Zara was able to hold off Benici there. Interestingly, I think Capit may have made a mistake there, because the gap between second and third is now about 9/10 of a second. So Schaefer and Capit, the gap between those two has really come out here. And well, it's almost a second now, so that battle might well be coming to a close. Let's see what Benici can do in getting past Sandro Zara as we head down towards the Ascari chicane. He's got very close to the rear end. I thought he was going to pull out of the slipstream and try to launch his way past Sandro Zara. Gets a good run on the exit of the Ascari chicane and down the final straight. Now he's got Parabolica coming up next. And then they will be launched down the final straight, or the pit straight rather, and towards turns 1 and 2, which is where Benici challenged last lap. And I'm wondering whether he'll do the same thing again. Is he close enough? He's in the slipstream of Sandro Zara's car, and the gap is about 4/10 of a second, so it has come out slightly on that lap as Benici's move failed. Incidentally, Benici's fastest lap of the race, about 7/10 faster than Zara, so he has the potential to go a lot quicker, and is possibly getting a bit frustrated here that he can't try to make his way back up the order again. Incidentally, Capit has just set the fastest second sector of the race, and that is in his charge to catch up his teammate again, Richard Schaefer. The gap has come back down to 7/10 of a second. That battle is well and truly not over, and could change at any time. So that's certainly one to look out for at the front of the order. Talking of fastest laps, the fastest lap of the race so far is Hani Al Sabdi's with a 1:49.818, which again really isn't that far off qualifying pace. And we saw last time out his lap in the race was very nearly good enough to give him pole position in qualifying. So a very good fast driver, whatever session it is Hani Al Sabdi. Ooh, as Benici makes a mistake and runs over the grass on the exit of the Ascari chicane there. We have less than 20 minutes of the race remaining now, and again, still the order is Al Sabdi, Schaefer, Capit, Siggy, Baldi, Serafian, Andrioni and Barucchi. So Andrioni was past Barucchi since last time I mentioned those two. And then Vella and Barbara to make up the top 10. And then after them, in the remaining points positions, it's Tabone, Camilleri, Zara and Benici with 1,000 are DNF. The gap between Zara and Benici on that lap came out to almost 2 seconds. So with that mistake from Benici, that battle is going to have to take some time to regroup. And we'll see what comes of that later on in the race, with 19 minutes of the race remaining. Back up to the front of the order, Schaefer and Capit still rather close. And look at Siggy. Siggy has caught about 2 seconds in the last 5 minutes here. So Siggy catching the 2 cars ahead of him, the ACR cars, as the ACR cars were battling, and now Siggy has got a clear sight of them. He's possibly getting a slight advantage from their distant slipstream. He won't be getting much of it, but any is an advantage. And well, Siggy will be wanting these two to go into battle again, because if they do, he can capitalise on any mistakes they may make or any collision that they may have. And let's hope for ACR that that does not happen. But things like that do happen in racing, so Kevin Siggy needs to be there to launch on it if that does happen. Now towards the Ascari chicane again. It'll be interesting to see what the gap is this time around, because I think it's come down slightly between both Schaefer and Capit, and between Capit and Siggy. So I think all three of these are bunching up in a slight accordion effect. It's taking a little while, but it's happening, I think, and it'll be good to see confirmation of that if well, when they cross the start-finish line this time around. So let's see what the gap is up the front of the order. Well, the gap between first and second is 9.3 seconds, and the gap between second and third is almost, well, it's almost a second. It's 10.344. So it's really, oh no, I mean that's Capit from El Sabdi. So, well, the gap's almost a second between second and third. And then it's 1.8 seconds from third back to fourth. So maybe it hasn't been coming down like I thought it had. But still, any one mistake could cost it for any of these guys. Of course, there are plenty of places on Monza where you get high curbs or grass lining the edge of the circuit, and all it takes is to brake with 2 wheels on that grass and the car gets sucked off. I've seen that happen plenty of times, and it doesn't always happen just to the people who aren't expecting it, so you have to be careful. Baruki, I believe, has just passed Garo Sarafian. He has. So Justin Baruki and Garo Sarafian have swapped. Oh, Baruki's out. Baruki is out of the race after just getting past Garo Sarafian. Now, that's bizarre. So the 2 sim racing Middle East cars swapped positions for 6th and 7th, and then Baruki retired. He's possibly had a disconnection. It looks as if he suddenly disappeared. But that's a very bad bit of news. Very bad bit of luck from Justin Baruki. And that is a bad shame there. Unfortunate to see. I've also just figured out that the driver we aren't seeing in this race is actually Damien Lempart, who finished 6th last time out. So it's a shame that we are not seeing Lempart here today, because he could be a real contender, or could have been a real contender in the championship throughout the series. But unfortunately, he has not arrived today. Now, what's the gap going to be this time round? It looks as if Al Sabdi and Schaefer are almost 10 seconds apart at the front of the order. It really will take something rather drastic now for Al Sabdi to be relieved of this win, and I don't want to have just put the commentator's curse on him, so we'll see what happens. And will the gap turn to 10 seconds apart this time around? Well, it's difficult to see, seeing as I'm watching the wrong cars, but we'll have to see what happens there. I was still watching Gary Serafian actually, and I'm wondering whether he did have some sort of incident or something that dropped him behind his teammate Baruki before Baruki's DNF, because of course he has also dropped right back into the clutches of Dario Andreoni as well. Andreoni is really, really close to the rear end. Well, he's actually less close now that I've said that, but he was about 0.7 of a second as they went past the start-finish line. They were about 0.7 of a second apart, so I think Serafian may have had a bit of an error somewhere. Although, with his teammates DNF, I know it's not the ideal way that he wanted to keep a position, but he has kept his position. So, less than 14 minutes of the race remaining now. We are really into the dying stages of the track, of the race rather. Less than a quarter of the race to go. A quarter of the race being 15 minutes. And this is the point where things happen, and the point where you can really lose a race or win a race. Still, Capit really sticking with Schaefer. The gap there has not been to a second apart the entire race. And that is not an exaggeration. For the entire race, Schaefer and Capit have been within a second apart. This has been really, really tense one. We maybe haven't seen the on-track side-by-side squabble that we often do, but still very, very tense race. Serafian's made another mistake. He's dropped 4 seconds back now from Andreoni, who he was ahead of before that lap. So Serafian has dropped back 2 places from Andreoni, and I wonder whether there's damage on that car because he appears to be losing pace. I think I see dirt on the front of that car, so I think he's run through the grass. That does certainly look like a dirty front end to me. So Serafian has had an off and he's dropped behind Andreoni, and the next driver behind him is Bernard Vella, who is hard charging. So definitely a bit of drama there for Gary Serafian, whatever happened.
It seems now that Baruki rejoined. That's at least what we saw on the top. So hopefully he might be able to join the race.
Well, Baruki's back in the server. He's 14th in the race at the moment. He's in the pits. And hopefully he can make his way back out onto the circuit. We'll have to see about that. He's in the pit lane at the moment, and I don't see any movement. But hopefully he can make his way back out again. Look at the ACR cars. They've come to 0.4 of a second apart, so they've come right back down again, and the battle is on. So Schaefer possibly made another mistake there, and the ACR cars have come right back down again, and Siggy is really not that far behind. Any of these guys can make an improvement, and Baruki apologises for a connection problem. Judging by the fact he's had to apologise, I wonder whether he hit Gary Serafian, and that may have given him some damage, which is costing him some time now. Let's see what the gap is. Well, it's still 4 seconds back to Andreoni ahead of him. So if Serafian did have damage, I'd expect him to drop back more than that, but maybe that caused his woes in the first place. We'll have to see if we can find out what happened after the race. But whatever the case, that's unfortunate for Justin Baruki. Now, is Baruki back out on track? No, not yet. Still, the ACR cars not side by side, but head to tail, nose to tail, as they go through the Ascari chicane. They are in the slipstream. Capit is in Schaefer's slipstream as they head down the back straight and towards the final corner. Still 10 minutes of this race remaining. The order is Al Sabdi, Schaefer, Capit, Siggy, Baldi, Andreoni, Serafian, Vella, Barbara and Tabone. Those are the top 10. With 10 minutes remaining. So this is the point where everything really, really matters into already. And Capit certainly getting close to Schaefer ahead of him. The gap that time around was still 0.4 of a second. So these two still locked in combat, and Siggy is almost within a second of Capit's head. Siggy is also charging. And Benici and Zara are back in battle as well, with Benici behind Zara. So it looks as if Benici was classified ahead of Zara as they went across the start-finish line, but he's behind him again now. But I want to definitely keep my eye on the battle for second, because this could change at any point in time. All it takes is one more slight error from Richard Schaefer, or just for Capit to get a better exit from one of these corners, and Capit goes sailing through. And he might go sailing through now. He's certainly getting a good run, as is Benici on Zara up ahead of them. The two battles on track are catching each other here. Capit backs out of it slightly, going into the Ascari chicane. He doesn't want to get caught up with these back markers as well, and they're just going past them. Of course, the difficulty with this set of back markers is that they're battling and they don't really want to give up much time to each other, but they get out of the way nicely there, so that's good from them. And now let's watch as Capit attempts to get a better run than Schaefer, and Benici attempts to get a better run than Zara as we head down the back straight. Benici is ahead of Zara, but can Zara get the place back again? He pokes to the outside line as we head down towards turn 1, and that looks to me as if Benici has got it. So Benici is ahead. No, he isn't. Zara's ahead. Zara's ahead still. So Benici again got himself ahead as they cross the start-finish line. But Zara again is able to come out on top. This is brilliant defense from Sandro Zara, as the three cars of the two ACRs and then Kevin Siggy are all within a second of each other now. We have a three-way battle for second place up the front of the order. This is rather thrilling, and this is a real tense end to this Sim Racing Malta Porsche race, the Sim Racing Malta Porsche 911 GT3 Championship. Round 2, in fact, and still we have a good battle for the top 3 positions. Also, we have a couple of RPM esports cars battling as well, as Stavone and Camilleri find themselves together on track with Barbara, actually really not far behind them, so 3 blue cars battling there. But now the attention shifts immediately back to the 3 cars battling over second place as we head towards the start-finish line, because this is the point where the slipstreaming is really going to come into play. And will anyone be able to attack any of their opponents heading down towards turn 1 this time? It looks as if they're slightly too spread out this time around. I'd say they're slightly too spread out this time around. They are none of them within half a second of each other now, but still very close with just under 6 minutes remaining. It's still very close. We're on lap 30 now, so many laps have been completed here at the Autodromo Internazionale Monza. And if you can imagine doing 30 laps of a track this iconic and not making some sort of error at any point, well, you can only be Hani Al-Sabti. It really does take a lot of skill, a lot of concentration, and a lot of patience. And Al-Sabti has all of those things, and he's running away with this up the front of the order. 12 seconds is the gap, as these 3 drivers behind him are being held up in their own little battle. And still the RPM esports cars are getting closer and closer to each other as well. That's one that could kick off towards the end of this race as well. Oh, Schaefer's gone wide! Schaefer's gone very wide! He's lost the positions! Oh, through goes Siggy, through goes Capit. So Capit is up to second. Siggy is up to third. Schaefer loses out and drops to 4th position. That's a shame for Richard Schaefer to lose 2 positions in one. I didn't see what happened there. I'm going to look back at the replay on the YouTube stream here. I didn't see. It looks as if he's just run wide. Oh, it may have had a slight twitch through the third apex, and lucky to keep it out of the wall there. But Richard Schaefer loses second, loses third, and it's now Al Sabdi leading from Capit, Siggy, Schaefer, and Baldy. Those are the top 5. It's Mad Cape, ACR, Waters, ACR, Waters in terms of the teams. And we now have less than 4 minutes remaining. Can Siggy challenge Capit? He was 4th a minute ago rather, and now he's challenging for 2nd. Risto Capit is the car ahead of him. He's a hard driver to pass. If the order stays the same, it will be the same podium to last time out. So Siggy wants to get ahead of Capit to neutralise that championship. And that could be a real turning point in their season here. So Al Sabdi still leads by 13 seconds now ahead of Capit and Siggy, but who will come out on top out of Capit and Siggy? Siggy really looks strong in this final stage of the race. I wonder whether he really conserved his tyres better than anyone else. And the ACR drivers battled and dropped back towards him. And then, of course, Richard Schaefer made a mistake, ran wide. Of course, these are very equal cars, so it's difficult to pass another one. The most difficult driver to race is one that's in your own car, or your own type of car. So that means that Siggy will have to get creative if he's going to pass Risto Capit here, and he might also need to find a time machine, because look at the time, 2 minutes 15 remaining. That's 2 more laps. So I believe that Al Sabdi is on the penultimate lap of the race here, and there's really not much time left for things to change here. The gap for 2nd and 3rd is 0.5 of a second, half a second. If you can imagine, half a second. It's really not much time at all. And then behind them is Richard Schaefer, who really dropped back in that little wide moment. And here's in, well, he's 16.5 seconds behind Al Sabdi and 2.3 seconds behind Kevin Siggy ahead of him. Schaefer, unfortunately, will not climb any further up the order unless there is a mistake ahead of him. Still, a very good race for ACR if they're going to get 2nd and 4th here. But of course, to say that, Capit needs to hold off Siggy. And that is going to be difficult, but we only have 1 more lap to do it in. And if Siggy is going to make a move here, it's going to have to be a good one. So down the back straight we go. Capit won't be Siggy won't be getting much slipstream. It's not very close to Capit, but he'll be getting some. Al Sabdi has just started the final lap of this race. Al Sabdi on the final lap of the race, and his last lap was almost his best lap. He's still pushing at this late stage in the race. He's still flying. Interestingly, Siggy's now dropped back from Capit, so Siggy drops back to over a second behind Capit now. And it's all about Hani Al Sabdi leading the race around on this final lap of the race. We've barely seen any of him here, as he's just been running away with it. Brilliant drive from Hani Al Sabdi, utterly dominant, as we saw last time out in Brands Hatch. And if he can do the same thing for the rest of the season, Al Sabdi will absolutely claim the Porsche on-track experience. He's in prime position for it now. Runs over the grass slightly, though, as I'm saying that. Serafian and Vela are close for 6th position. That's something that might be able to change on the final lap here. Vela's been chasing down Serafian after being released from his teammates Camilleri and Tabone. Or are there 4? there appear to be 4 RPM Esports cars on the grid. I didn't register until now what team Camilleri was racing for. It's RPM Esports, so there's 4 RPM Esports cars on the grid today. But anyway, down towards the final corner comes Hani Al-Sabti. This is an amazing performance. The end to an amazing performance. He just needs to put the cap on the bottle. Round the final corner he goes. Al-Sabti in the number 87 car out of the final corner. And he's going to deliver another hat-trick. It's fastest lap. It's pole position. It's a win. Al-Sabti wins it. Brilliant performance from Hani Al-Sabti, who crosses the line to win the race. Oh my word, that is an amazing performance again. Al-Sabti looks unbeatable. Capit is second, third is Siggy, fourth is going to be Schaefer. Baldi is going to cross the line in fifth. He has 1 corner to go. My word, what a race we have been seeing. Unfortunately, we lost Dario Andreoni and Justin Brucchi towards the end, so neither of them are going to finish. It's going to be 12 finishes here. Baldi is fifth. Sixth is going to be Garo Sarafian, if he can hold off. Actually, Bernard Vella's dropped back a long way, so I wonder whether... Oh, no, it's Sarafian that's dropped back a long way. Sarafian has dropped back a long way from Vella. Vella is sixth. So Vella has got Sarafian on the final lap. And where has Sarafian gone? Because he's dropped a long way behind. And I'm wondering whether Sarafian had a spin. Or maybe he really was damaged like I expected earlier. So Vella crosses the line sixth. Sarafian exits the final corner. He's going to cross the line to claim seventh. Few more drivers yet to finish. Keith Camilleri is going to round the final corner to finish sixth. Hold on, just a few more drivers to cross the line here, and then we can dash off. Tabone is going to be ninth. He crossed the line then, and then it's going to be Omar Barbara, and there were 2 cars a lap down of Ruben Benici and Sandro Zara.
So actually, in this last lap, we have a driver under investigation, which is Bernard Vella. We're waiting just for the outcome from the stewards, and we'll be informing you very, very soon. As soon as the race finishes, we're gonna get obviously the top 3 drivers in the challenge, so that will do the relative interviews. In the meantime, whilst I am on, would like to thank our sponsors, which are Continental Cars Limited, Porsche, Melita, Techstore, Sim News TV, World of Sim Racing, GT Omega, Genesis, Husingveld, Fanatec, and Sparko.
Fantastic. So, after a very, very tense race, which saw second, third, and fourth really heat up towards the end, Al-Sabti wins, and behind him come 11 more drivers. Unfortunately, we did have 3 retirements: Dario Andreoni, Justin Bruce, Vincent Falzon. Barucchi and Falzon appear to have been connection issues. I don't know what happened to Andreoni, and we still have a couple of drivers under investigation for various incidents. We will give reports, hopefully, when I publish the article about this race. Afterwards, you will hopefully see any news about penalties in that one. We're just getting a few drivers in for the interviews now, and the first driver we have here is our race winner, and a dominant race winner, Hani Al-Sabti. Hani Al-Sabti.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good race.
Absolutely, it was. Again, for the second race on the trot, the second sim racing multi race on the trot, you have claimed fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying, fastest lap in the race, and the race victory, and by a huge margin as well. I mean, that's just incredible. What? I take it you like this car.
I don't know. What can I say? I don't know.
Well, that's 2 races in a row.
But to be fair to Risto, I mean this race, maybe he got held up by his teammate a little bit. That's why I could drive away and just focus on my lines, and that's it. And he had to battle. Like driving behind somebody in this car is a bit tricky.
Still, brilliant performance from you. Talking of Risto, he did get ahead of you at the start. You passed him rather quickly as well. Talk us through were you disappointed when Capit got past you at the start? Did you think that you were going to have to work harder for this victory, and did you have to work hard to get back past him again?
Well, I knew Risto will pass me at the start because he had a better start at the Brand Hatch. I don't know how he's doing it, and my start is just bad. So I had to defend from his teammate, but I took it easy. I knew like let Risto drive. I would just follow and see if I can force him into to make it a mistake. But he made his own mistake by hitting the curb too hard, and he went a bit off track, so he lost speed, and I could attack. And in the second straight, I could like slipstream a little bit, be beside him, and try to outbrake. But he tried to outbrake me a while, and then he went deep, too deep. So this gave me the opportunity to overtake him.
Well, amazing. The winning margin in the end was actually 15 seconds. Was there any point where you thought you were maybe pulling away too fast, pushing too hard? Were you concerned about the tire life, or?
No, I just was focusing on getting the fastest laps, lap after lap after lap, trying to beat my own lap. That's what I was doing, really.
So you were treating this race like a qualifying session, and
I think the car and the tires allow that for like 3 part of the race, and then the final part you have to take care of them a little bit. But at Monza, it wasn't really an issue.
well, I could go on and on about how amazing what I just saw was, but we do have to move on to other drivers. So good interview. Next up, in no particular order, I'm just reading the names in alphabetical order. Well, I suppose that is a particular order, but you know what I mean. Kevin Siggy. Hello, Siggy.
Hello.
So, Kevin, you finished third for the second time, but I suppose you really had to work for this. You were a long way behind the two ACR cars after the pit stop. Did you expect to be right with them at the end?
No, I didn't at first. I was thinking that I would be a bit closer to them after the pit stops, but I didn't know that speeding at the start of the pit lane is allowed. So, yeah, I just lost some good seconds there, and I couldn't just make up time. It was really hard to do it. I was doing really good times in the middle of the race, but then the tires went off. So I lost a bit of time. But in the end, I still got third after a mistake from Risto's teammate. So it's kind of okay.
Well, it was actually the same podium order to last time out. It must sort of get rather irritating finishing with a face full of ACR car ahead of you. Do you think Risto is becoming a bit of a rival now? Is he the driver you're setting your sights on as you head to Vallelunga next time out?
I mean, I always set my sights to Risto because he was always my rival, but he almost always has the better of me. But at the moment, it's only Risto, not Hani, because he's too fast.
And given a couple more laps, you were really catching up at the end there. Do you think you would have been able to challenge for second properly?
I think not.
Okay, that's interesting. It looked to me like you were catching. Right. Again, thanks for that. Looking through the order on the Discord server, we also have Risto Capit, who placed second. Hello, Risto.
Hello.
Right. So Risto, you started the race well. Of course, second in qualifying, but as Hani's already told us, you got a mega start, and before we knew it, you were in the lead.
Yeah, that lap and a half was good, but quite depressingly, I made the mistake. So that was that. My only way to beat Hani was to not make mistakes, but that happened. So that was it.
Well, I suppose you would have wanted it to have lasted longer. We saw that your teammate got past you, Richard Schaefer, quite early on in the race, and then you followed him for the entire race after that until he made an error. I can imagine it got quite tense at times with the two cars in the team running so closely on track, and and trying to or maintaining the gap.
Well, yes, it was frustrating. I was a bit faster, but these cars don't really have a draft effect, so I was struggling to get past. There might have been a chance to get Honey in the pit stop cycle, as we were a bit faster into the pits, but it didn't happen. Good that I was second in the end, not fourth or third.
I tell you what, you touched him on the pit exit. As you and your teammate Schaefer came out onto the track again, you were pushing him out onto the road. I can imagine that was the point where the frustration really boiled over, where you realised you weren't going to get past him then because you come out behind.
Yeah, well, actually, in Assetto Corsa, the cars ghost if you're inside each other. So when you come out inside each other, you still stay. But yeah, I was a bit faster out of the box as well, but not good enough. So yeah, of course, it was very frustrating. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're second or last in this series. You only get prizes for winning. So losing the chance to win, that was frustrating the whole race. So no other emotions.
But you've mentioned the prize for the first place, of course, the Porsche on track experience. Do you still think that your championship charge is very well and truly on? Do you think that Hani has the well? Do you think that there's a big a chance of an off weekend for Hani that you can capitalize on later in the season or something?
To be honest, looking at the statistics so far, I have made more mistakes. I don't know him that well. I know he's fast as hell, so he has some room to go. I mean, for this race, I did quite some good things with the setup, I think. I thought I was fast. I did qualifying well. I did my maximum. Maybe if they started equally, I still would not have beat him. So it's very hard. Of course, I will keep on pushing. I will give the same performance each round, but it's not too hard for him to not make much mistakes, and in that case there's not much I can do, but we'll see. We are all driving on the limit, so if we can give him some pressure, then for sure he will have some mistakes at some point, so we'll see. It will be good racing.
Well, as I've said before, if you can finish second, you can finish first. So all it takes is for something, and I'm not trying to put the commentator's curse on anyone here before you think so, but all it takes is for something to happen to the first place car, and that sometimes isn't even their own fault. Just anything can happen sometimes in racing. So the championship is well and truly still on, and I believe the championship standings now will still be Al Sabdi from Capit from Siggy. Thanks for the interview there to all three of you, and we will see you in the next round. So that is the end of the broadcast. There, we're going to thank a couple of sponsors here. Go ahead.
So actually, first of all, I would like to thank all the drivers for a very clean race, good race today, professional race with minimum of accidents. We have the outcome of the last investigation ahead with Bernard Vella, which obviously has been penalized with 20 seconds, thus giving back the position to Garo. So that is a 20-second penalty in that instance. So very professional race. I'm gonna pass now the microphone and my headphones to Justin, so that he'll say a couple of words to everybody before we end this transmission of today.
First of all, thanks Joshua for your great commentary as usual. I would like to thank also Mike Pittman, who is the owner of simnews.tv and who offered us to help us with the live streaming to broadcast it to several channels. Thanks to him as well. Thank you, Joshua, again. Professional race. Well done to the drivers. There were very few penalties. Obviously, we're going to see the replay again to see any incidents that you might have not seen during the race. And that's basically it. I thank again the sponsors, GT Omega Racing, Usingveld, Melita, Textor Distribution, Extreme Power Sports, and obviously Porsche, and the official sponsors of the championship, and Continental Cars Limited. Thank you very much, and see you next round.
Before we sign off quickly, I want to point out that we've got a lot more live action from Sim News TV coming up very shortly. We've got a Scrutineer special tomorrow on that channel and the Super League show on Tuesday, plus live rounds from the Formula Challenge, which I'll be commentating on Tuesday, Super Cup on Wednesday, and Super League on Thursday. This is all on the GPVWC and the Sim News TV YouTube channel. Plus, we're going down under for a V8 Supercar series on the 4th of March. Make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel so as not to miss anything. And we can now end this this broadcast.
So, would like to thank everybody. See you next time. Thanks for following us, and keep on following us on Facebook for our upcoming races. Thank you, and thanks, Joshua.
No problem. See you later.
Black beats came to make it hotter. We beat the fire starter. Bubbling up just like lava, heated like a sauna. Penetrating through your body armor. Rhythmically we massage ya.
Volkswagen.
They called it madness. Building the car of your dreams yourself. Madness. Putting the engine in the back. Madness. Launching a turbocharged super sports car in the midst of a worldwide oil crisis. Madness. Taking a sports car into the desert and taking the insights gained there back onto the streets. Madness. Building the first hybrid car on Earth. And when its time had come, the fastest one on Earth. Once more, they called it madness. Let them call it madness. We call it courage. The courage to build a sports car with 4 business class seats. The courage to upgrade not only the driving, but also the driver. The courage to transfer an unmistakable design DNA and create a luxury saloon that was born on the racetrack and is at home on the roads. The new Panamera. Courage changes everything.
Gigabit Internet issa f'Malta. Gawdi mill-Giga Power. Biss mal-Melita Flexi.